This is Kasterborous Podcast with a K, episode
2. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second podcast with a K. My name's Christian Cawley. I'm the editor of Kasterborous.com, and with me is my co-editor, Mr. Brian Terranova. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Christian.
Okay, so we've, I'd love to say we've got a packed half hour for you, but what we've probably got a bit of a compact 15 minutes for you. First of all, we're going to kick off, have a talk about the return of Doctor Who for this year, 2007. It kicked off last week with Smith and Jones, and carried on this week with the Shakespeare Code. First of all, Brian, Smith and Jones, what do we think about Martha?
Oh, I think she's great.
Yeah?
Yeah, I definitely think she's great. I think she might have come off a little bit, I don't want to say jerky, but a little bit, I'm set, I'm going to do this my way, like I'm not going to call you the doctor because I think you got to earn that type of thing, but I think she's a real person in there, a bit more, dare I say, than Rose.
Bit more what?
But more of a real person.
A real person, but more of a real person than another fictional character.
Yeah, well, and that's what you're trying to achieve with fiction. You're trying to create a real person, and I think Rose, I mean, when you look at it this way, Martha really wants to help people, and Martha really wants to enjoy this adventure, where Rose seemed more like she wanted to help herself.
And have a bit of a laugh and take the mickey out of the Queen.
Yes, yeah. Whereas, like, in the Shakespeare Code, the first thing Martha wants to do is give mouth to mouth to some guy who's drowning in midair. I mean, she doesn't even think what kind of diseases or whatever he can have. She's a doctor. Sure. She wants to go save him.
Okay, yeah, I can go with that. And of course, with Smith and Jones, we saw a new alien race, the Jadoon.
Yes, quite brilliant.
Or should I say, Jadoon?
Yes, I think you should say that. But yes, I like them. I have a theory that they'll be back.
Do you think they'll be back?
I do. Well, do you remember the pictures that were floating around the internet when the Jadoon were new and we saw them on the streets of London? Or some kind of similar-ish streets? You don't?
Oh, right, no.
Okay, well, they were outside. It was not a hospital. I mean, it could have been the outside of the hospital. I guess I should say that, but it didn't look like that anyway. Right. I'm trying to find the pictures again, and naturally, now that I'm talking about it, of course, I can't. So I gotta figure out where they were.
All the sort, isn't it? I'm quite impressed with the Jadoon myself. I was pleased with them. I think it's about time we had a good reusable monster in the new series,
especially a new one.
Davies. Yeah.
All right, because I have a theory that the Jadoon will be, a good reusable monster. Like I said, that they'll be back, but they're going to be the reusable monster of Series 3. Much like the Daleks were in Series 1, and the Cybermen were.
Series 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it would be the first original Russell T Davies created alien, and I think they're a good choice. But when you think about it, the Doctor said that they were police for hire, so they came. They were looking for the plasma board. They had no jurisdiction over the Earth, so they took the hospital to the moon to get their villain. But if they're police for hire, it says to me, and David Tennant didn't quite make them out to sound necessarily like the good guys, even though they were police. He said they were for hire. So it seems to me that for the right amount of money, they would still go to Earth if they had to, even though they have no proper jurisdiction over there. Money rules a lot of things. So I kind of have a feeling that they're going to be back in the last two-parter, looking for Mr. Saxon.
Right. Could be.
That's my theory. Could be totally wrong, I guess.
Could be totally wrong. You're absolutely right. You could be totally wrong. You could be completely spot on.
It could be. Thanks for that vote of confidence. But
that's all right.
But no, I mean, seriously, because they're really good. They actually look like they spent time creating them and fleshing them out for something like when you think about it, they had an alien in Rose that was already fleshed out, and you didn't really use any explanation for them whatsoever, the Autons,
Yeah.
They didn't
come back. We knew what they were, but there wasn't really much to them for newcomers, was there?
Exactly, no. So and it was Rose's
life, and there's a big blob in a pit that's controlling them.
Exactly. And the story served as Rose's introduction.
Sure.
But this story here served as Martha's introduction, yet it still gave you enough information on the Jadoon. They
did both jobs.
Exactly. And so
Are we going to, though, talk about Martha's family? Or should we just forget that they exist?
No, you know what? Talk about them.
Okay.
I guess I don't think they're quite as bad right now as the Rose situation,
Right.
which is odd, even though there's more people. But they were used minimally in the first episode, and it sort of makes sense to show them in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I hear, aren't they only going to be back like 1 or 2 more times?
Well, I don't know whether that's true or not. And to be honest with you, if it is true, it's 1 or 2 more times too many. Because I don't watch a lot of American television, so I couldn't comment on what kind of things you see.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, characters like those, I mean, they're straight out of 2 or 3 other programs. So we get over here in particular,
really?
Hollyoaks, which is quite a popular teen soap.
Gotcha.
And there was a bit of, but I mean, that putting the foot down thing. I mean, if that's not
that was way over the top. Yeah.
cliche done to death, I don't know what has. And the bad stereotyped blonde girlfriend of Arthur's father. I mean, that was appalling. It really was poor. And it's strange to have. I know we've had it. I mean, with the Shakespeare Code. I mean, everything about the Shakespeare Code seemed to be more or less perfect, apart from perhaps the mention of Rose.
Right. Yeah.
But in Smith and Jones, there was that kind of. There's a few things that have been great about episodes during series 2 in particular, and have been a bit not so great about episodes. And I think Martha's Family is definitely one of the things. The only thing in Smith and Jones that wasn't too grand. So if we are going to see less of them, then I'm quite happy about that, to be honest with you.
I totally agree.
The Shakespeare Code for me was fantastic, and the pacing was spot on. I said that last week, Smith and Jones, during my Smith and Jones review, I said the pacing was spot on, and probably the best piece of pacing of a Russell T Davies single episode since The End of the World.
Sure.
And the Shakespeare Code, Gareth Roberts has done a brilliant job with fitting all of that into 45 minutes, because that was the best bit of television I have seen since Life on Mars on Tuesday.
Yeah, and when I was watching it, I kept thinking like, oh, you know, the wrap-up's going to be here, right? The wrap-up's going to be like a 2-second wrap-up right here,
Sure.
and it wasn't. I mean, the episode felt a heck of a lot longer than 45 minutes to me, but not in a bad way. You know,
Absolutely.
It felt good. It felt like the time was really well used. It felt like the pacing was perfect, and the mix of everything you needed to learn and everything happening in a timely manner all worked well, like perfectly
Absolutely.
balanced.
The young witch was a bit nice to look at as well.
Yeah, I won't argue with that. And but here's the other thing: she was also a female lead villain actress who could act without going over the top, unlike a certain spider that we all know and despise. Yeah, well, you know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, well,
okay.
Then, moving on.
Well, we'll move on. Shall we have a word with Mr. Norman?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Mr. Norman, okay then. Mr. Norman is a gentleman that got in contact with us a week or so ago after seeing the first episode of Doctor Who, and discovered that there was a character mentioned by the name of Mr. Saxon. He did a bit of research on the internet, that's how he got in contact with us, and discovered that this character, Mr. Saxon, has been mentioned a few times in Doctor Who over the past few episodes. And Mr. Norman's not too happy about this.
No.
Seeing as I've been on holiday all week, enjoying a nice walk on the ancient walls of the city of York, I left my eminent colleague here, Brian Terranova, to speak to Mr. Norman.
And what a treat that was. So we, after communicating, via email for about a week or so, we have him here, live at Kasterborous Towers. Mr. Norman, how are you?
Yeah, all right.
Good. Good to have you here.
Yeah, well, needs must, don't it? I mean, so yeah.
Right.
I'm not happy.
You're not. Well, why are you not happy?
Well, I mean, this Mr. Saxon business. I mean, who is he? Who is he? What is he?
I suspect we'll find out. Don't you?
I know people. I know people who know people. Why didn't you bring me into it? Hey?
What?
Why did you bring me into it?
Well, that's.
See, those rhino heads last week. That you do last week.
Yeah.
I know that you're doing.
Do you?
Could have had me. Could have had me. They could have had me.
Really?
I know people.
You
I put fly posters up all over the place.
So
Vote Norman. Vote Mr. Norman.
are you
I've got opinions. I've got opinions.
right? This is how the emails went too. Are you running against Mr. Saxon?
Running against him? Running against him? I knock his bleeding block off when I get in touch with him. Do you know how much he owes me?
Yeah.
Do you know how much he owes me?
Really? For
Do you
what?
know how much he owes me? He owes me an entire bleeding tanker full of crude oil from the Middle East, man.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I wonder how that's going to play off in the show. Now, Mr. Norman, though. Now, I understand your outrage. I understand that he owes you, but I mean, honestly,
Livid.
I'm sorry.
Livid.
You're livid.
Livid.
Okay. I'm sorry. I understand how livid you are, but what does that really have to do with Doctor Who?
Well, because they're going bringing in bloody Saxon down there. Bloody Saxon. I could have done it.
So you think that it should have been you?
Of course it should have been me. Of course it should. Of course it should.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with that, really. But I mean, they kind of have things all set with Saxon right now. I'm sure there's a good reason to use Mr. Saxon. I mean, was there be any reason why they wouldn't use you? Any foul blood?
His name, Mr. Norman. What's wrong with Mr. Norman? It's just as British as Saxon, isn't it?
What?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Okay.
Never even asked me. Never even asked me.
No.
I'm livid. I tell you, I'm livid. Absolutely livid.
Well, you know, there's always Series 4, right? They could get
It's
you.
a bit late by then when Saxon's already had it, isn't it?
Right.
Well, anyway, I'm going to write a letter of complaint anyway. I'm sending my boys round London. I'm taking those fly posters down. I can tell you that for nothing. Basically, I've had enough. Russell T Davies, Saxon posters.
Right.
Leave it. I've had enough.
Okay, but I'm still, I gotta be honest, I'm still a little lost. Why exactly is this so grating on you?
Well, I've been on the internet. I've searched about this Mr. Saxon. They reckon he's the master.
And you think you're the master?
I'm not the bloody master. I'm the bloody monk, aren't I?
Oh.
If Mr. Norman wasn't enough of a giveaway,
Oh.
call yourself a Doctor Who fan. Call yourself a Doctor Who fan. I'm out of here.
What? Well, wait, Okay. Yeah. Well, so he's a bit of a strange one, that. I mean, can you blame Russell T Davies for not actually wanting to hire that one? Christian, are you back with us?
Is he gone?
Well, I think so. I think he just stormed out of here.
Yeah, I had to hide, really.
What
was his problem exactly?
I don't quite understand. I mean, he thinks he should be in Doctor Who instead of Saxon.
Why?
But what is that at the end? He says he's the monk?
The monk?
Did you hear that? He said he's the monk. He said
the monk?
Yeah. He says Saxon is
That would be the Time Lord that no one remembers, surely.
Quite possibly.
Ah.
So, well, I guess maybe that's why he's so upset. But I mean, you heard him. You heard a little bit, right? Anyway,
I did hear him. I was trying to place his accent for most of the time, to be honest with you.
Okay, but you wouldn't hire somebody like that in your show if that's. I mean,
No.
Think of the demands they would have just acting in it alone.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had the master on last week, didn't we? I mean, what man of such urbane charm? That's the sort of person you want to work with, even if he is going to shrink you with his tissue compression eliminator when you're not looking.
Yeah, well, he's got a way about him that makes you feel comfortable with that. That makes it
makes it all right to kill you.
Yes.
And your family. And
Absolutely.
Your entire race. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably leave Mr. Norman, or the meddling monk, as it seems he is, for now, or for good, in fact, and possibly move on to our final item for this second podcast.
We're going to be moving on to the latest companion, Martha Jones, again, and the whole issue of the first Black companion.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, and, Christian and I had a little bit of a chat about this, and we kind of don't think that's right. I don't know, maybe other readers of Kasterborous and Doctor Who fans have picked up on this, but, yeah, it's just not right. What do you think?
Well, Martha's not the first Black companion, is she? She's the second Black companion. I mean, we could sort of break it down into primary and secondary companions and tertiary companions, and
If you wanted to, yeah. I
if you
mean,
wanted to go down that
if
insane
you wanted to be
path.
technical.
I think what's quite interesting. I mean, there's probably a bit of the old being prepared by the press office, the press officer or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting comment by Freeman, which we reported on the 6th of April, where Freeman says, "I am the first black companion. I know that people are going to pick up on that, but it's that labelling of black companion, when it should probably just be companion or actor after a while. I appreciate that's going to be there, but that's why the part, for me, is so special. It's non-stereotypical in any way. There are no limitations on colour or sex. It's just liberating. When you're fighting extraterrestrials, the differences between mankind become quite insignificant." And I think, really, this is me talking now, she's pretty much hit the nail on the head. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter whether she is the first or the second black companion.
It doesn't matter at all. It's just, we found it kind of funny that, first of all, you just ignore Mickey. And I guess, what's funny about it is that's sort of the story of the companion, Mickey, of the character's life. He's always the
Pretty much
forgotten
so, yeah.
one or so, and here the BBC just did that. But, I'm in total agreement with Freema on this issue here. She should just simply be the companion,
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was just a little bit silly. The poor Mickey once again gets left in the dust once the biggest news story comes behind.
That's right, the old tin dog.
Yeah, the old tin dog. Very good.
And it looks like that's all the time we've got for our second podcast with a K. Don't forget to join us next time when we'll be speaking to the ghost of Barusa, as well as the Doctor himself. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Gerald, could you get me a soy milkshake, please? Oh yeah, that's nice.